Good evening. Welcome to tonight's business session of the Washington County Board of Education. If you will please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let's see. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Second, Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Any discussion or anything? All in favor? We'll move to the approval of the minutes.
Vice President Stauffer, I move for the approval of the closed session minutes dated Tuesday, April 19th, 2022.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Vice President Stauffer, I move for the approval of the business meeting minutes dated Tuesday, April 19th, 2022.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand.
Vice President Stauffer, I move for the approval of the closed session minutes dated Saturday, April 23rd, 2022.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right.
I'm abstaining.
All the minutes are approved.
Do you
Now,
have an abstention?
I abstained.
okay, I'm sorry. Next is public comment. I'd like to read from policy KD. Each person wishing to address the Washington County Board of Education is encouraged but not required to sign up prior to the meeting and may address any topic concerning Washington County Public Schools except personnel or student matters which clearly identify an individual or individuals. Each speaker may speak up for up to 5 minutes. Mr. Bickford is our timekeeper. Would you like to go over the...
When you have about 30 seconds left, I'll put up yellow, and then when I put up red, you need to wrap it up.
And the one speaker that has signed up ahead of time is Mr. Neil Becker.
Good evening, Vice President Stauffer, board members, Dr. Michael and staff. It's Teacher Appreciation Week. It's one of the best weeks of the year. And this week, as we celebrate Teacher Appreciation Week, that's the topic this evening for my comments. And the teacher unit, it includes much more than what we traditionally think of teachers in Washington County. Our school counselors, occupational therapists, speech language pathologists, media specialists, social workers. So teacher is expanded to include many titles within Washington County Public Schools. And additionally, we would not be successful in the teacher unit if not for the partnerships we have with our ESP unit and our A&S unit. As educators, as brothers and sisters within the education careers, that's how we achieve success for our students. This week, I can't visit every educator in every school, so I'll use this platform, this opportunity to express my gratitude. It is truly an honor to represent the association members as their president for just one more year. As a community, we don't express it often enough, but I say it from my heart, truly as a parent, that I'm grateful that my children have been enrolled and two are graduates of Washington County Public Schools. They've been blessed to have a stellar education in Washington County Public Schools. And with about 25 days remaining, just 25 days, it doesn't seem like a long time, but the year is far from over. Students and staff, they're actively engaged in learning and in testing and all sorts of exploration. Peppered throughout the last few weeks of schools, yep, there's going to be some celebration and some recognition, including graduation ceremonies. Teachers and students take it all in. June 7th will be here in a blink. Thank you, board members, for supporting educators and students. And to our educators, thank you for encouraging students to chase dreams. Thank you for engaging students in critical thinking activities. Thank you for challenging students to see, recognize, and respect all sides of issues. And thank you for being inclusive and equitable by including all students. Remember, we educate students from birth through 21 in all of our activities and events. And finally, thank you for choosing education. Thank you for choosing education as a career and for choosing Washington County Public Schools. I know that our educators, our teachers, could and can go anywhere to teach. And in many counties, they can earn higher salaries. But our educators, thank you. You have chosen Washington County Public Schools, and for that, our community and our funding agents should be grateful.
No one else signed up ahead of time? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to come forth and speak? Please state your name.
Hello, I'm Ethan Lowen, and last time that I spoke, I discussed this board's 3R training for the 6th graders and the new public school standards that Minnesota's Omnibus Education Bill, also known as HF 3401, brings to our public schools. I received some thoughtful inquiries, and I wanted to respond to them. First, HF 3401 has been amended and is now passing through as HF 4300. Something to keep in mind about legislation such as HF 4300 is that when the term omnibus is attached to a piece of legislation, it means that it's huge, in this case 133 pages. It comes with massive changes, and political leaders came together to create it. Additionally, a state does not...
Excuse me, Mr. Lowen, could you back away from the microphone a little bit? It's kind of staticky.
Is this better?
Much better, thank you.
Thank you. Additionally, a state does not reimagine the public schools as Minnesota has without including national political leadership as well as educational leadership, which would include the National Association of School Boards and the Teachers Union to incorporate their input. I discussed the portion of this bill that mandates that non-Caucasian teachers will be eligible for higher pay, which Caucasian teachers are cut off from until the percentage of Caucasian teachers drops by at least 34%. This version of the bill also specifies minimum additional pay for non-Caucasian teachers that starts out at $1,000 the first year, $2,000 the second year, and then increases to $4,500. There is no maximum amount, though. Depends on how much additional pay it takes to ensure that the reduction continues on track. Furthermore, it makes gender identity as much of a focus as racial equity. In other words, the employment and pay discrimination in this bill also introduces a legal precedent to institute gender identity-based employment and pay discrimination in the future. It is important to understand why this is happening now, and it is because the groups that support this worldview saw how school boards around our nation suppressed and ignored parents as they spent the last year protesting this being taught to their children because, as parents stated, racial equity is just racism dressed in academic terminology. However, after observing this for more than a year, the determination was made that if boards of education will undermine parents and not defend children, then they will not defend teachers or administrators either, and that's the pattern. They observe how school boards treat the parents and children on a subject before including everyone else whose welfare school boards are responsible for. There's nothing coincidental about this year having had a one-week gender identity training program in our schools for our 6th graders, while next year becomes a year-long training for all students, at the same time that this omnibus bill lays the legal precedent to make gender identity a requirement for hiring and pay decisions for everyone else at some future date. Just as before, the proponents of this worldview are waiting to see how boards of education treat parents and children regarding gender equity before taking the next step. And this process will continue to repeat until local school boards and local teachers unions take a stand. But what have they observed? In the case of this board, they observed you putting out textbooks in the lobby of this building for public viewing, giving the impression of being honest with the community about the curriculum, but you never put out the 3R curriculum for the public to see. You give the impression of honesty behind what you choose. Then there is the opt-out letter you put in the children's online portal for this year's 3R curriculum, knowing that parents rarely have a need to log on. Rather than being honest and sending a letter to the parents notifying them that their children will be taught a significantly changed sex education curriculum called the 3Rs, a gender identity curriculum, which would have been honest, instead you chose to treat the parents as something to be manipulated. Additionally, they have observed you defending pornographic and pedophilic books in the school libraries, books that portray pedophilia as positive experiences, and you keep children exposed to these traumatic stories and images and pictures in the books in the name of gender identity. The groups that put together the omnibus bill know that those books are pedophilia and pornography. After all, they are the groups that recommended those books to be purchased by the school libraries through their use of the Follett Company sales network. However, they cannot go any further until you open the door for them by how far you will go now. And clearly, they have great confidence in what you will continue to do. But if boards of education follow the parents' lead, reverse course, and protect children, then this new standard entering the public schools will be put into the dustbin of history. It's inevitable that the way parents and children have been treated would result in this omnibus bill, because it is the entire history of social engineering that each new step is always more extreme and affects more people for as long as people continue to comply with the current step. Social engineering is a well-documented activity. It relies upon the psychological processes of desensitization and apathy. Desensitization is when you spend so much time fulfilling the expectations of the current environment that when a change is made that causes you to perform an even more extreme set of actions, the process of apathy takes over. Apathy is when you are at a certain level so numb to the current extreme behavior and mentally weary from the constant grind of it all that you perform the next set of expectations without your emotional alarms going off. This process is called by different names in different situations. In many unhealthy adult relationships, it's called gaslighting. In most illegal adult and child relationships, such as those glorified in the library books, it's called grooming. In the authoritarian government versus citizen relationship, it's called social engineering. And the solution to all of these situations is the same. You have to stop complying. You have to take on the struggle to return to who you are and what you know is right. I hope this answers the inquiries. Please continue reaching out, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please state your name.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Michael, my name is Tanya Rowe. I don't have a prepared speech. I just wanted to get up here. I'm not going to tell you anything new. As you know, this past year was very hard for new teachers and veteran teachers and everyone else. We had a very hard job in front of us, as you did too. But I did want to take the time to thank you for you gave us 2-hour early dismissals every month to have time in our classrooms, to have time with other teachers, to have time to plan and to grade and just take a breath and take a step back and get some things done that we needed to do with everything else that was on our plates. So I just wanted to take a minute to thank you very much for that. I'm not alone when I say we appreciated it. And the time was spent well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, seeing no one. We had no old business. We'll move right to new business. Consent agenda. Mr. Bechtel.
Good evening, Vice President Stauffer, members of the board, Dr. Michael. Tonight I have 13 items for your review. The Purchasing Review Committee has reviewed these items and they are being recommended for approval, and staff is available if you have any additional questions.
Motion. Official motion maker over here.
Mr. Vice President, I move to approve the awards, renewals, and procurements for Cafeteria Edition at South Hagerstown High School to GRC General Contractor, Inc. at a cost of $1,401,773. Kitchen equipment, Hancock Middle High School and Hancock and Clear Spring Elementary Schools to MTS equipment at a cost of $175,512. Kitchen equipment, Williamsport High School and Williamsport Elementary School to MTS equipment at a cost of $67,373. Kitchen equipment, Boonesboro High School and Boonesboro and Greenbrier Elementary Schools to MTS equipment at a cost of $93,503. Uniforms for food and nutrition services and transportation, renewal to BJ's Custom Creations and Super Shoes at the unit prices listed. Comprehensive Food Safety and Cleaning Program renewal to Food Safety Solutions at a cost of $217.83 per school per month. Enterprise Print Management Consulting Services to Davis Consulting Corporation at a cost of $69,500. Copiers and printers extension to Centric Business Systems at an approximate 6-month cost of $119,175.18 and approximately $19,862.53 per month during the transition to the new bid, and Marco Technologies at an approximate 6-month total cost of $142,225.56 and approximately $23,704.26 per month during the transition to the new bid. Google Workspace for Education Plus subscription renewal to Amplified IT at a cost of $96,000. Juniper Service Support and Licensing renewal to Skyline Technology Solution at a cost of $77,045. Blackboard subscription renewal to Blackboard Inc. at a cost of $73,062.60. Professional School Auditing Services renewal to Ronald Schiffler at the hourly rates listed. And tools and equipment for Washington County Technical High School to Napa Auto Parts of Hagerstown at the unit prices listed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Questions to Mr. Bechtel about the consent agenda? Mr. Gesper?
Thank you. I guess Rob Rollins, as he's here, if he could come forth. I'd like to have a little bit of information about what's going on at South High. I think some of our folks in the community would be interested in hearing about the renovations at South High, especially a lot of the alumni.
So this project is about a 3,000 square foot addition to the cafeteria, and that's pretty much the extent of it. We're adding a few bathrooms to increase the capacity for that. The new addition will allow it to be separated from the current cafeteria, as well as be adjoined through a large roll-up door that will allow kids to be able to pass through as if it's one room, or can be separated into two. And that's pretty much the extent of it. It's just that cafeteria, at the time the school was renovated in 2000, it's just a little undersized for the number of kids in the student. Even before the enrollment was over capacity, it was still too small, so it's a good addition.
Sounds good.
Mr. Gesper, you asked about, and only related to this, is this bid, but we've also brought other bids before the board. Bleacher replacement at South High. We have a sidewalk canopy project to try to address the number of buses and particularly parent drop-off that we have there.
It's a lighting project for
lighting
security.
project in the parking lot is something that's long overdue, and we're adding a lighting project. Seemed like maybe a curb cut to connect two of the parking lot areas, drop-off loop in the parking area. So a number of enhancements there to the facilities because it's well over capacity at this point, and we're trying to address those needs.
I have a question about that. It comes from the ESSER grant, correct? So
Yes.
that's, and how did we qualify that for the ESSER grant?
We're spreading the kids out.
Ah, okay, got it. Very creative.
Social distancing. Yep.
Mr. Gupta?
I just had a question about the Google Workspace. So I know that we use that quite extensively in schools, teachers and students and administrators. Everyone does. But are there any competitors, or are we just renewing it because Google has worked well for us?
Mr. Allen, here in the back. If you'd like to respond.
Good evening, Vice President Stouffer, Dr. Michael, members of the board. I'm Joe Allen, Executive Director of IT. Are there any competitors to Google Workspace?
Yes.
Google Workspace is made up of a lot of different components. So, the sheets, the docs, there are competitors to that, generally the Microsoft products. The Google Classroom, there are learning management systems that do similar things to that. So, I would say in a lot of ways, yes, but nothing, there's no package like there is with Google.
I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only one that I have a concern with is number 7, the print management consulting services. I know we discussed this in the finance committee meeting the other day, but I struggle with the consulting services. There's, 25 other police or public school jurisdictions in the state, and I can't imagine that what they're doing is too much different than us. Have we ever reached out to them to say, hey, what are you guys doing so that we don't have to spend an extra $70,000 to find out what they're already doing? Is that something that happens regularly, or is that a way to save money, or?
Thank you for the question. I would say that the consulting service is used by other districts, and what they do is they're experts in their field. They take a look at all of the schools, all of the district, the printing needs. They interview teachers, administrators, people in this building to find out, what the needs are. They then develop solutions which are presented to us, and a lot of these consultants, talk about the return on investment that we will gain by using them, because if we were to just go replace the equipment, we're not changing anything. Whereas if they look what needs have changed, they'll determine what should be sent to the high volume print shop downstairs versus what should be done at a school. So they really look at all angles there, and they promote themselves as being able to save us money in the long run, and that may be something we could talk about after it's completed.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope they would position themselves to say they're going to save us money. Otherwise, why do we use it? But and I get it too. I mean, I'm looking at number 8 there, and for 6 months we're going to spend about $120,000. So it seems like we can expect to recoup that $70,000 pretty quickly, right? Is there anything that you can tell us about how quickly we'd be able to save that $70,000, or?
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head what they did touch on that in their RFP submission, but I can get that for you. I don't remember exactly.
Mr. Evans, I had similar questions when the proposal first came up as to what you're asking. Now, I've got a long history of how much paper we go through, and print copies and copiers and our print solutions center downstairs. I mean, we're in the hundreds of thousands, probably closer to $1 million annually by the time we look at cartridges and copiers in schools and workstation. In my office, I don't have a printer. Everything I have goes out to the copier and in my administrative assistant's role, because a number of years ago that was the cheapest way to do it, and we've continued to do that. What I understand this company's going to do, and they've had success and proven success in other areas, is they're going to look at our entire copying, printing status. I think probably some of the outcomes will be things that aren't desirable to people, especially those who have gone out and purchased their own printers to put in their offices and things. We've gone through a couple challenges to this. But each time we've done something like this, we've gotten a consultant, we've gotten return on investment, and I've been convinced that that's going to happen out of this, even though it seems like a pretty steep price tag. But we're not talking about, I think our copier solutions, we're just extending that copier lease for 6 months to buy us time to get this done, to again get a recommendation of how to do our system-wide copying lease, which we generally do for 4 to 5 years at a time with renewals on it. So it's a multi-million-dollar review, I would say, in one way, because we're talking about multiple years, hundreds of thousands of dollars annually, and we need to do this right. We spend it's not only the copying part of it, it's the paper costs as well. And with inflation, everything has gone up. So we want to make sure we do things as efficiently as possible. So I kind of push back on the team on the same question you had. And I'm convinced at this point that this will, if nothing else, break us even with a $70,000 investment and put us on a good path for where we're going forward in a very costly commodity that we use regularly. I mean, teachers, it's just all of us. We use print still in the printless electronic age.
Right.
So Dr. Michael gave me time to look that up. They were saying about $6 to $7 per student per year. So 22,000 students, it's 130,000. So
Get that back in less than a year then.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Anyone else? I have a question. Perhaps the people listening and the people in the audience here would like to know a little bit more about the things coming out of the Food and Nutrition Service Fund. as I understand it, we discussed this in Finance Committee, we're replacing some equipment that's 35, 40 years old and so forth. I see Mr. Prue coming up, so he'll enlighten us about this situation.
Sure can try. Mr. Embley is the expert, but I'm covering for him this evening. What you have in front of you, you've got several procurements for food and nutrition services this evening. Some are standard every year procurements, uniform bid, food safety contract. The three I think you're referring to are the first three items that were on our agenda this evening, which are equipment replacements. So if you'll call back to last May, June, when we presented the food service fund budget, we really didn't know what this year was going to look like. We didn't know what in-person was going to look like. We didn't know whether we were still going to be on universal free meals or back on a paid program. We didn't know what participation would look like. And all told, we're going to have 180 days of school. We're on a universal free meal program this year, which has raised participation, which has allowed the department to be much more profitable during the school year than we had ever imagined. The results of those profits from this year and the fund balance that we're receiving this year is going to be folded into reinvesting in the department. So replacing aging equipment. The first three procurements you have this evening address sort of West and South County from Hancock all the way down into Boonesboro, going in, replacing ovens, dishwashers, items of that nature, and items that really cost, in upwards, when we're talking about dishwashers, I mean, $25,000, $30,000 for a piece of equipment, but that'll last 25 to 30 years. In a lot of cases, we're replacing equipment that is 30 years old, and it's time for it to be replaced. We'll have subsequent procurements coming forward. We've packaged these to work in regions so that various vendors can bid on them by region. If a vendor gets overloaded, they're not picking up the whole boat, and other vendors can come in. So over the next several board meetings, I think you'll see some additional procurements moving forward. And even into next year, we'll start actually to move away from back of the house to move into the front of the house to freshen up the way the cafeteria looks, which also assists in making the food look more appealing as well.
And there's also a federal regulation law that your food service fund balance can't be above a certain amount, and that money has to be spent down, or?
It's correct. The food service fund, by federal regulation, should not exceed 3 months operating costs. So the food service department here is roughly about a $12 million operation. So the fund balance cannot exceed $3 million. We do expect at the end of this year the fund balance will exceed $3 million. So this is a part of an overall plan by Mr. Embley to spend those dollars wisely by reinvesting into the department.
And that's a separate fund. It's an enterprise fund separate from the general fund, the operating budget, and so forth.
That's correct. The proceeds from the food service fund are solely from reimbursements by both the state and federal government for meals that are served and the cash payments that families make to provide meals for their students.
And really, what's made the difference this year is the federal reimbursement. We're getting the advantage of the federal reimbursement for all students to participate in the meal program. So basically, free meals for everybody, paid for by the federal government, paid for by taxpayers. And it does go to the enterprise fund. Every year I work each of our base kitchens, our 9 base kitchens every year. I constantly hear from the teams out in the field, we wish this was replaced, this thing's broke down again, the washing machine, the dishwasher, even though we've de-limed it multiple times, it continues to fail. So these are just good long-term investments in our infrastructure.
Anything else? All in favor of the consent agenda? Okay, 6-0, and the student member concurs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Gupta, I apologize for not acknowledging you on concurring on the business minutes from the last session. So my apology. I'm new at this. All right. Okay. First reading of proposed changes to policy IGC. Ms. Rom.
Good evening, Vice President Stauffer, members of the board, Dr. Michael. The Policy Committee reviewed policy IGC at its public work sessions on January 25th, 2022 and April 12th, 2022, at the request of staff. Staff recommended to the committee, and the committee agreed to remove the provision in the policy that permits school-sponsored travel abroad. The removal of the provision does not prohibit students from traveling abroad, but it will no longer be school-sponsored and must be done through a third-party vendor. The committee is also recommending that any reference to required trips be removed because the school system does not require any school-sponsored trips. The committee is recommending the Board of Education approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy IGC.
Is there a second? Or is there a
Make a
motion?
motion.
I'm sorry.
No problem. Vice President Stauffer, I move to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy IGC entitled School-Sponsored Trips.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
I can just give a little bit of briefing from our committee meetings. We did check with staff, and I think many of the committee members also spoke to teachers that have organized trips. Staff was in favor of these changes, and overall the thinking is that there's many private companies and third parties that do these trips now, so there is ample opportunity for students to take these trips, and it's just something that the school system, there's a lot of risk involved with allowing kids to go out of country, and so we're revising the policy to update that.
Any questions? Mr. Gessler?
Number 4 on that, it says students attending trips must follow school rules. Violations of rules of conduct may result in ineligibility or disciplinary action. What's the difference? If you must follow the rules, why shouldn't there be ineligibility?
We have a disciplinary matrix that schools follow of when discipline is issued and when it's not, as well as investigations that occur if rules are not followed. So while it says may result in ineligibility and or disciplinary action, it gives you, the schools, the option of either ineligibility, disciplinary action, or both.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, motion's been made to accept the changes in first reading of policy IGC. All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Student member concurs. Now the first reading of policy, proposed policy JED.
In 2021, Section 11-722 of the Criminal Procedures Article Annotated Code of Maryland was enacted, which prohibits a student who is a registered sex offender from entering onto real property that is used for public elementary or secondary education. In accordance with the law, school systems are responsible for providing education to a student who is a registered sex offender through other methods in a location other than public school property. Section 11-722 required the Maryland State Department of Education to develop a model policy for local boards of education to adopt that enables a registered sex offender who is a student to receive an education by participating in a program approved by the local board of education. MSD issued its model policy in February, and policy JED was drafted and presented to the policy committee at its public work session on April 12, 2022. The committee approved the recommended policy, which sets forth the Board of Education's commitment to maintaining a safe and secure learning environment for all students and ensuring that students who are registered sex offenders continue to receive a free and appropriate education through other methods at a location other than school property. The committee is recommending the Board of Education approve the first reading of proposed policy JED.
Vice President Stauffer, I move to approve the first reading of proposed policy JED entitled Student Registered Sex Offenders Entry on School Property.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Questions for Ms. Long?
I would just say that this is not one that you necessarily want to see come up on your policy committee agenda, but to me it seems that the main motivation here is that we are protecting our students since we are denying entry to student registered sex offenders. Under Maryland law, we still have the requirement to provide them an education. They just can't do it on our school property.
So this is really an alternative placement,
Correct.
in effect? Any other questions, comments? All right, we'll proceed to vote on the motion. All in favor of the motion to approve the first read of policy JED? It is unanimous. All right. First reading of proposed changes to policy Bbfe, ethics.
During the 2021 legislative session, changes were enacted that made multiple modifications to the state's ethics law, which in turn required updates to the state's administrative regulations governing Board of Education ethics. The changes include new conflict of interest provisions and additional disclosures local boards of education must include in their ethics policies. The Policy Committee conducted a review of its ethics policy, administrative regulation, and exhibits at its public work session on April 12, 2022. The committee is recommending changes to the policy, administrative regulation, and all but 2 of the exhibits as a result of the updates to the state law and state administrative regulations governing local Board of Education's ethics provisions. The committee is recommending the Board of Education approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy Bbfe, administrative regulation Bbfe-R, and exhibits Bbfe-E1, 3, and 4. Upon the Board of Education's approval of the first reading of these documents, the board is required to submit its proposed changes to the State Ethics Commission for review and approval. The board will be presented with the second reading of the documents after the State Ethics Commission has given its approval of the board's proposed changes. And in looking at their schedule, it looks like their meeting is not until the end of June. So this would not come back before the board until after then.
Does that mean it'll have to go to first reading again?
Quite possibly.
Okay.
There are 5 separate motions, so we'll do them one at a time.
Is it okay to combine them, or do we need to do them one at a time? What would be your recommendation?
I would recommend that they be done separately because if one is not approved, then you create a conflict with their remaining.
Okay. Vice President Stauffer, I move to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy Bbfe entitled Ethics.
A second. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments about? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to the motion. All in favor? Okay.
Vice President Stauffer, I move to approve the first reading of proposed changes to Administrative Regulation Bbfe-R entitled Washington County Board of Education Ethics Regulations.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, we'll move to the vote on the motion. All in favor? Mr. Bickford?
Vice President Stauffer, I move to approve the first reading of proposed changes to Exhibit Bbfe-E1 entitled Ethics Complaint Reporting Form.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? We'll move to vote on the motion then. All in favor? 6-0. And student member concurs, has been concurring. Okay, number 4.
Vice President Stauffer, I move to approve the first reading of proposed changes to Exhibit Bbfe-E3 entitled Financial Disclosure Form A.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? Okay, we'll move to a vote on the motion. All in favor? It is unanimous. Student member concurs.
Vice President Stauffer, I move to approve the first reading of proposed changes to Exhibit Bbfe-E4 entitled Financial Disclosure Form B.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, questions, concerns? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote on the motion. All in favor? It's unanimous, and the student member concurs. Okay, thank you very much. Now, Dr. Willow.
Good evening, Vice President Stauffer, Dr. Michael, and members of the board. I am here this evening to ask your approval of an MOU between the Board of Education and the Washington County Teachers Association. The MOU will allow WCPS to support the Maryland Accelerates Program and the Tutoring Apprenticeship Program. The Maryland Accelerates Program with Frostburg allows for teacher candidates who currently hold a bachelor's degree to complete a one-year residency with Washington County Public Schools. The Tutoring Apprentice Program will allow WCPS to hire and train 50 high school students to become literacy tutors at the elementary school. All of this is funded pending the Maryland Leads Grant, and this MOU is good for 1 year. I do want to thank WCTA, our CTE department, Frostburg State University, and MSDE for their help with this.
Is there a motion?
Vice President Stauffer, I move to approve the MOU between the Board of Education of Washington County and the Washington County Teachers Association.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Willow?
I just want to say it's fabulous. And since we have such a pending shortage of teachers, anything we can do to help get kids into that track is fantastic.
So just to clarify about the 50 high schoolers, so are those hired like from the teaching academies, or do they go to Frostburg and then come back to WCPS, or how does that work?
So for the Tutoring Apprenticeship Program, it will be open to any high school junior or senior that would have room that would apply through the apprenticeship program. They'll actually be employees of WCPS, where they will be given a caseload at the elementary level. They're trained throughout the summer. They'll work under the guidance of a teacher and work to close reading achievement gaps at our elementary level. The exciting part of the program is at the end of the year, for those students that see a potential of being a teacher, we will cover the cost of them taking the praxis, or if they would want to become one of our paraprofessionals, we'll cover the cost of that license. And again, that's all through the Maryland Leads Grant.
So does that happen during the school year, the tutoring? During the high school schedule?
Yes, it would be the release for if you were just like under an apprenticeship model now, or what you might remember some of your colleagues or some of your students would be using CRD. The apprenticeship is similar, only the focus here is centered around the related instruction of learning how to tutor elementary students in literacy.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll now move to a vote on the motion. All in favor of approving the MOU between the Board of Education of Washington County and the WCTA? Okay, it's unanimous. The student member concurs. Thank you, Dr. Willow.
Thank you.
We'll now move to the superintendent's report. There are several recognitions.
Mr. Stauffer, yes, we have 8 recognitions tonight. All of them are very important, but I'm going to kind of put a little special flavor here on this first one as the most important in a lot of ways. This is National Teacher Appreciation Week. As Becker's already indicated, we are so grateful to all of our teachers. It's been a long and challenging year, a long and challenging couple years. I'm very proud of our teaching staff, the work, the efforts that they do. Spent the last 2 days in schools, I think almost every day last week. I just continue to be amazed at the work that our staff does every single day. I appreciate our ESP, I appreciate our administrators, but this is the week that we turn the spotlight on teachers. And in doing so, I'm going to ask Joni Burkhart to recognize a special guest, as well as recognize some other finalists we had for Teacher of the Year. And I'm going to turn it over to her at this time. Burkhart.
Good evening, Vice President Stauffer, Dr. Michael, and members of the board. Teacher Appreciation Week is a wonderful opportunity to recognize all of the teachers in Washington County Public Schools, and also to introduce our current Teacher of the Year. This year, we had over 200 teachers who were nominated, and we had 100 teachers complete the entire Teacher of the Year packet. From those 100 teachers, the community judges and Washington County judges chose 5 finalists. You're going to be able to see them here on the screen. They were Libby Baumgardner from Eastern Elementary. She is a GATE teacher. Our next one is Caitlin Keller from Boonesboro Middle School. She is a connections teacher. Our next is Erica Kozlowski. She's a second grade magnet teacher from Fountaindale Elementary. Our next is Ann Palmer. She's a third grade teacher from Jonathan Hager Elementary. And it is my pleasure to introduce you to our current 2022-2023 Teacher of the Year, Elizabeth Mcdonald, who will represent all of Washington County teachers at the state level. Elizabeth, would you like to make a few comments?
Sure. I am incredibly honored and humbled to be recognized as the Washington County Teacher of the Year. On behalf of the talented and dedicated educators across WCPS, I wish to extend my gratitude to the Board of Education for your continued support of staff and students and your focus on elevating and celebrating all the amazing things that are happening throughout our school system. As educators, we take on a variety of roles. We teach, we support, we nurture, and inspire our students. Surrounding every thriving educator is a network of leaders and colleagues to support them in their growth, provide a sounding board during their challenges, and take joy in their successes. What unites us all is the view that the greatest potential that we have for tackling the world challenges of the 21st century lies in the passion, creativity, and intellectual curiosity of our young people. I assume this role with great humility and also as a joyful challenge to continue to grow and develop as an educator, and as a sincere mission to celebrate and amplify the incredible work being done every day by the students and staff of Washington County Public Schools. Thank you very much.
Ms. McDonald, on behalf of the board and staff, we congratulate you, and we congratulate all teachers for National Teacher Appreciation Week. And we greatly appreciate all of our teachers. We wish Ms. McDonald great success here in the next stage. I think she'd represent us well. Okay, this time I'm going to ask that Dr. Willow. At this time, I'm going to ask that Dr. Willow do our next three presentations. We're going to recognize gold medal success of our 2022 Skills USA students, as well as our health professional state leaders winners that we had. And another group that's being recognized along with National Teachers Week is National Physical Education and Sports Week. So Dr. Willow, if you would do those next three presentations.
Well, some of what I'm going to celebrate are actually Miss McDonald's students. And I also want to acknowledge that Mr. Pine, principal of Washington County Technical High School, is also with us this evening because we have some good news to share. On Saturday, April 2nd, 50 WCPS students participated in the Maryland State Skills USA Championships held at Center of Applied Technology in Lithicum, Maryland. WCPS had 6 gold medalists, which means first place in the state of Maryland. And I'd like to recognize the following students: John Nelson, Michael Smith, Eve Patel in the Career Pathways Showcase, Kyla Rouse in Collision Repair Technologies, Michaela Chubak, Prepared Speech, and Ava Lewis for Early Childhood Education. All told, WCTHS had 6 gold medalists, 11 silver medalists, and 3 bronze medalists, which means we had 20 medalists in the state competition, which is pretty remarkable. We, on behalf of Dr. Michael, want to thank our staff, parents, Trades Foundation for supporting our students. And our gold medalists are actually getting ready to head to Atlanta, Georgia on June 20th to compete in the national competition. So
we wish them well. Congratulations.
And more good news from Washington County Technical High School. The Health Occupation Students of America held their Maryland State Leadership Conference and competitive events on March 22nd. We are proud to share that we had 2 first-place teams again in the state competition. For forensic science, Leah Bosnick and Jenna Rockwell, and they competed in the anatomage competition, which challenged students' knowledge, they competed in the forensic science competition. In the anatomy competition, we had a first-place team called the WCTHS Splendid Spleens. And I want to congratulate the following members of that team: Captain Corey Trumpower, Leah Bosnick, Alexa Kretzer, Isaiah Underwood. And again, in this competition, we had 9 medalists. So some great news from Washington County Technical High School.
Yep. Congratulations again.
Going back to the Skills USA, how do they assess the skills in, say, early childhood education? What do they do there?
So the Skills USA is an extension of the program. So we have 17 programs, at Tech High. So
Right.
Each of the competitions is an extension of the classroom. So for early childhood education and for Teacher Academy, that could be creating lesson plans, delivery of a lesson. There are models, there are rubrics that students get scored on. So whatever skill that they're learning in their tech program, Skills USA has a competition for that, like carpentry or whatever that might look like.
So the judging rubric?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So
All right.
so students not only have to present using a rubric, they also compete against other students doing the same things.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, and my last recognition for this evening, National PE and Sports Week is a celebration of the importance of physical education and health education, in addition to kicking off National Physical Fitness and Sports Month. Physical activity is the key to maintaining health and well-being. Getting active can improve fitness and reduce stress, reduce the risk for many chronic diseases, and ease symptoms of anxiety and depression. During National PE and Sports Week, we'd like to thank all of our physical education, weightlifting, health teachers, coaches, athletic directors, and administrators for all their time, energy, and dedication to keeping our students active and healthy.
Okay, thank you again to our physical education and sports. I asked Mr. Prue to do our next recognition, recognition of School Lunch Hero Day, which is May 6th coming up. Mr. Prue?
Thank you, Dr. Michael. Yes, this Friday, May 6th, is School Lunch Hero Day. Inspired by author and illustrator Jarrett Kraszalka, School Lunch Hero Day is designed to reflect on and celebrate the tireless efforts of all school lunch staff. From preparing meals to washing dishes, protecting students with food allergies, and dealing with USDA program compliance standards, school meal staff provide friendly faces and nutritious meals for students every day. Their services also go beyond the cafeteria. School meal staff provide breakfast in the classroom. They prepare after-school suppers to clubs, athletic teams, and after-school care programs, both in schools and at community locations. Some of them even dedicate their time over the summer to serve meals to our community's children, including our community meal machine program. This week and always, help me thank our food service professionals for all they do for the children of Washington County.
Absolutely.
Just curious dad joke, but are they serving submarines on Hero Day?
I'm leaving now.
We do thank our food nutrition service staff. They are a hard-working group of men and women that do a great service to our children every day. I've asked Dr. Pugh, Peggy Pugh, to make the next 3 presentations. Recognition of Pupil Personnel Worker Month. So the month of May is Pupil Personnel Worker Month. Also, May 11th is National School Nurse Day. I'm going to get this right yet. And we also want to recognize May 18th as Speech Language Pathologist Day. So Dr. Pugh, if you do those next 3 presentations.
Thank you. May 2022 is Pupil Personnel Workers Month, and Washington County Public Schools is proud to recognize our PPWs. We received a governor's citation for our PPWs that celebrates their work serving all children and promoting the opportunities for every child to experience a safe and healthy environment. Pupil personnel workers are specialists who are trained to consider and assess the total needs of a child. They serve as the school's liaison with the family, with community organizations, and social agencies to foster the child's physical, psychological, social, and intellectual growth. Pupil personnel workers work collaboratively with the resources of the home, They work with the school and the community, which is essential to the good mental, emotional, and physical health of each child and necessary to advance effective teaching, learning, and achievement in schools. It is important that the people of Washington County honor the unique and essential role that pupil personnel workers play in the personal and academic development of Maryland's children. These dedicated professionals do an outstanding job nurturing the growth, maturity, and responsibility that adulthood and good citizenship require. Thank you to our pupil personnel workers.
Absolutely. Congratulations to them. Some people recognize our pupil personnel workers as the old truant officer type thing. I mean, our pupil personnel workers do much, much more than that at this point. Obviously, they're working on student attendance. They help us with student discipline, but they're a real advocate for students in every way and trying to get them resources to attend school regularly and have success. We also appreciate Mr. Jacoby, who helps lead that department.
Yes, they all wanted to come and celebrate, so. National School Nurse Day is observed on Wednesday during National Nurses Week in May every year and takes place on May 11th this year. It's a day when we come together to honor the field of school nursing. Today, we honor the daily efforts of our school nurses to ensure that all students' well-being, safety, and academic ability. Unaddressed healthcare needs make it difficult for children to participate in learning. The school nurse helps students succeed by providing health care to all students in the school. Some of our school nurses provide individualized care during the school day for a large number of students with complicated physical and mental health issues, as well as students who are at risk for health problems. The school nurse helps children with their physical, psychological, emotional, and social health requirements in order to promote academic success. We appreciate our partnership with Meritus Health and extend our sincere thanks to all of the Washington County Public School nurses.
Okay, thank you again to our nurses.
And the final recognition that I have the honor to present is that May 18th, 2022, is Speech Language Pathologist Day. Speech and language is the most needed service in our schools, so speech language pathologists, or SLPs, are very busy trying to serve all of the students in our community who have speech or language needs. And these students require services in the area of communication to help them be successful in schools. SLPs are often called speech teachers, which is actually not the case. They're not actually referred to as teachers in the field, but rather as pathologists or therapists. SLPs have elite degrees, licenses, certifications, and job requirements that are required. Their positions are both educationally and medically relative, and currently SLPs are in high demand, not just in our area, but nationwide. We are very appreciative of the work our speech-language pathologists do, helping children achieve their goals to become effective and functional communicators to be successful both in and outside of the classroom setting. Thank you to our SLPs.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Pugh. Our speech pathologists are in high demand. We're working daily to try to fill our current roles, and we're also going to try to hire additionally 7 more speech pathologists to help reduce the caseload for our current speech pathologists. So we greatly appreciate all the work that they do. Some of the other things that I have tonight are just announcements. Our summer camps are quickly filling up. So through the ESSER funding, last year we were able to expand our summer school offerings, and particularly in elementary and middle school, we created a variety of camp opportunities that also incorporated academic subject material, high interest camps for students. And we're continuing that this year, and we hope for the next 2 summers, as long as the ESSER money is available. So if you have any interest in that, go to the website, look things up, register, and hopefully your children will be able to participate in that if you have interest in that. Over the last couple of weeks, I've had the opportunity to kind of be on the play circuit, the theater circuit, whatever, as well as I regularly attend a lot of sporting events, and I continue to be amazed at the talents of our students. So not only our athletes, both male and female, and what a tremendous job they do in the competition and the entertainment they provide, but also our arts departments in the form of art, music, instrumental music. But again, most recently, kind of my tour has been, I think I've been to 3 plays in a week and a half, and 1 more play here to go this weekend. But it is amazing the talents that our children have. And we need to help celebrate those types of things as we see that, particularly outside of the classroom. It's just, again, for high school students to be able to participate at this level is amazing. I think it's probably the perfect word I have for it tonight. We had 2 opportunities over the weekend on Saturday for people to participate in our 2nd annual Earth Day Festival, the outdoor school. We had a beautiful, beautiful day for it. It was gorgeous. I managed to make it all the way up the top of the fire tower with a 2-year-old who climbed every step because I didn't want to hold her up above our railing, carrying her up, all the way up the fire tower. Gorgeous view. Staff up there does a tremendous job in helping our children understand outside environmental education. And I appreciate all the work that went into that day. And we had some other schools that participated. I know Williamsport was there, Williamsport Elementary. Their environmental club was there participating, so we're hoping to grow that event in the future. Also, we had a transition fair at North Hagerstown High School. Grateful for the team that pulled that together. This was for students and families to come and see what opportunities particularly they would have available to them after high school as they transition into various organizations and support groups that are available in our community. And I appreciate all the community vendors that came out, again, as well as our staff and students and adults that took advantage of that. And probably lastly, I'd just like to mention again, Teacher Appreciation Week. Teachers, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for everything you do every day for our students. Mr. Stauffer, that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Michael. And Dr. Pugh returns to the microphone.
Thank you, Vice President Stauffer, members of the board, Dr. Michael. As discussed earlier in closed session today, there are a number of staff changes for your consideration. And at this time, I ask for your approval of today's personnel actions.
Is there a motion?
Vice President Stauffer, I move to approve the personnel actions dated Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022, as presented in closed session.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Any questions or anything? Is this when you want to do the announcement? Okay, all right. Just wanted to make sure. Okay. We'll move to the motion. All in favor of the personnel actions approved in closed session? All right, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Stauffer, if I could, just want to make a couple announcements from staff changes this evening. So I generally try to make sure that people are aware of particularly principal changes. So we want to wish Dwayne McNairn well in his future, retiring principal from E. Russell Hicks. Replacing him for next year will be Mr. Chris Klein. Moving into Chris Klein's spot at Smithburg High School will be Mr. Tim Estridge. So Mr. Klein will be going to E. Russell Hicks. Clear Spring High School, Amanda Mullaney will be the principal at Clear Spring High School next year. At Hancock Middle Senior High School, Jenny Rubenthal will be the principal at Hancock Middle Senior High School. And following her at Springfield Middle School will be Miss Lindsay Avera. Also, I'd like to make note of another staff change. Amy Norris, a current principal at Paramount Elementary School, will be our next coordinator of elementary behavior programs. Amy brings a wealth of knowledge to that position. I'm excited what that will do to help support our students with at-risk behaviors. So thank you, Mr. Stauffer.
Anything else?
So.
All right. Board member committee reports. We'll start to my right.
This Curriculum and Instruction Committee will meet Monday, May 16th at 1:30 here.
The Finance Committee just met on Thursday. I was going to pretty much say what Mr. Stauffer had Mr. Prue say, so I don't have much to say about that. Our next meeting is going to be May 27th.
26.
May 26th, that's what I said.
Because I changed my appointment. Don't mention what it was.
For facilities, we will be meeting on Wednesday, May 18th at 1 o'clock.
Policy Review and Development Committee meets tomorrow. We're reviewing the cell phone policy, a policy about exploring employee expenses as well as attendance areas.
Any Services will not meet again until July.
Yes, for Regional Student Council, we had our student member of the board election and our board of student leaders election. Our next student member of the board will be May Cruz from South Hagerstown High School. She's currently a junior over there. And our next Washington County Association of Student Council's president will be Ifan Zhang, and he is a current junior at North High in the IB program.
Future agenda items. On the back of the agenda, the work session on May 24th has been changed to 2 p.m. Dr. Michael will be in Annapolis, and that'll give him time to get back. We have us, well, that's just about it. All righty, board member comments. We'll start to my right again.
I would be glad to. My mom was a really great artist. Me, not so much. I dabble in finger paints with my grands. And as we study people, we collect words about the people and turn them into cards. After all, how much art can you actually hang in your house? So we share the art. Harriet Tubman, every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars and change the world. Emerson, the earth laughs in flowers. C.S. Lewis, you're never too old to dream a new dream. Amelia Earhart, my daughter's favorite. The most difficult thing is the decision to act. The rest is merely tenacity. And my favorite, there is a superhero in all of us. We just need the courage to put on the cape. And so I say, thanks, Superman, and Beth Mcdonald and all of our teachers, our cafeteria heroes, our PPWs, our SLPs, and our school nurses. You put the cape on every single day. And this month, which I consider the most challenging month of the year, an extra thank you.
So obviously, there's a lot to celebrate here today. Congratulations to all the kids' hard work for the achievements they've made. Thank you to everyone that we have recognized today. It is very easy to get complacent and forget to say thank you. So hopefully our actions show that we still appreciate everyone, and sometimes we do need reminders like this to remember to say thank you for all the hard work that is done for everyone in the community. And Mr. Guestford politely reminded me just earlier that I missed Administrative Assistance Day last week. So I need to hope that it's not too late for next day air for Amazon and get Mercedes a nice gift. So thank you, Mercedes. You are phenomenal. I wouldn't be able to run the office without you. So actually, you run the office. So thank you, Mercedes.
Mr. Guestford?
Well, we do have an administrative assistant. Unfortunately, she is not here this evening. She's home taking notes. So she is watching us diligently. So today we presented her, the board presented her with a beautiful array of flowers. Debbie, who has many colors in her wardrobe, we got flowers to match that because she brightens our day and takes care of all of us on the board. So we are very thankful for Debbie and all the things that she does for our board members.
Mr. Bickford? Nothing for me today. Thanks.
Well, I want to echo all of the thanks given by my colleagues to all of the people that we've honored here tonight. I want to thank Principal Keith Allshouse for giving me a tour last Wednesday of the new Sharpsburg Elementary. It is a beautiful building and has a wonderful staff. And lastly, I want to say happy Teachers Appreciation Week to all of the wonderful WCPS teachers. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you very much.
I wanted to once again repeat, all of my fellow board members have said thank you to all the teachers and all the other staff, which makes WCPS so great. I also want to give a quick shout out to the mental health fair, which happened today. It was at South High. I could stop by for a couple of minutes before the board meeting, and I got to talk with a lot of vendors. There were, I think, about 15 or 20 mental health surrounding vendors over there that work with WCPS and work with the community. And I got reminded how wonderful the Washington County and Hagerstown and all the other wonderful towns in Washington County communities are, and how much they do to help students and everyone who lives in Washington County. And it was just, I sometimes forget how big Washington County is in terms of people and how many people are working to make the world a better place.
I just have a couple things. One, I attended the Envirathon. That was very interesting. I hadn't been to one for a few years. It was held here at CES. And last Friday evening, I had a chance to echo what Dr. Michael said about the talent of our students. I attended the musical at Williamsport High School, Joseph and the multicolored dream coat, or whatever it's called. I can't remember. Amazing. Okay, Technicolor coat, right, and so forth. And it was amazing what those kids, what those students do, and so forth. I ditto what my remarks said by other colleagues here, and I just want to say one thing. We appreciate all the employees of Washington County Public Schools, and I will tell you this, as a teacher for 40 plus years, there is nothing, you can't put a price when you walk into a store or you go someplace and some ex-student, former student comes up to you, even students that you didn't have, but they knew you from the high school, and you recognize them because they were friends with students that you did teach, and they talk to you. You can't put a price, it's priceless, as the old commercial says, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Teachers do amazing things, our ESPs do amazing things, our administrators and supervisors and so forth work very hard in Washington County Public Schools. Is it a perfect system? No. I haven't found a utopia yet anywhere in my life, and I'm not going to find one in Washington County Public Schools. But we work hard, and we educate the children. Public education is the backbone of America. Take my word for it. And with that, we'll call an end to the meeting at 7:13. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.